So we're all Battlefield players, but not all of us, at least I hope, are total morons. The game has had an abysmal launch, but before that, an absolute mess for beta, and before that even, one of the most mishandled testing periods I've ever seen. See, I've never really bought into any conspiracy theories ever, like throughout my entire life. But for once, I somewhat believe in this theory that Battlefield 2042 has been sabotaged, at least a little bit. See, there's mistakes, which can obviously happen with any game, and can be excused. Then with many mistakes, you might suggest that it's just incompetence. DICE are past incompetence though at this point. We're literally talking about hundreds of mistakes, and many of them make little to no sense. Game development is definitely not an easy job, and doing so at a company like DICE requires a lot of experience and often success in the industry. As much as we joke about the game being made by Kickstarter project high school interns, this just is not the case. The formula is there, the experience at least with developing other games is definitely there, and then the money, studio horsepower, and the time, it's all there as well. It's definitely no surprise that many people, myself included, have considered sabotage as an option. And there's definitely little bits of proof here and there. So in this video we'll go over some quotes from DICE employees, current or former, that really sadden me as a Battlefield player. I won't include any names, and of course, trust me, in about 4 to 5 years it'll get even more interesting, as a lot of these former employees that saw 2042 from the inside will be released from their NDAs. Anyways, to set the tone, we'll have to go back to 2016. Battlefield 4 was the go-to game for almost all Battlefield players, and by that point it was already a masterpiece and a bit of a classic. However, Battlefield 1 was around the corner, and during the lead up to this game, supposedly a dev loved the game but had to kill it. It's interesting because while BF4 ended up as one of the great games of the franchise, and to be honest it's pretty much unkillable at this point, it did have some very questionable changes during that period. See, I remember talking to a friend Hade who played a lot of infantry in Battlefields 3 and 4. He played them both at the highest level, you know, scrims, teams, whatever. He was one of the top infantry players in Battlefield. And I remember him saying that around that rough period they made some changes to the assault rifles that made them much less fun to shoot, and in his opinion that's what ruined Battlefield 4's gunplay. Obviously the game is, you know, totally unkillable as we said before, and it will go down as one of the best games of the franchise. Thing is, planned obsolescence happens a bit in the real world, but hearing about the possibility of it happening in the gaming space is really sad. Look, I hope they didn't try to kill Battlefield 4 to make people buy Battlefield 1, but I wouldn't doubt it, and that quote is real. Fast forwarding to Battlefield 2042, we had to start by admiring how dumb the initial closed playtest was. The purpose of it should have been to collect data and understand where the game can be improved. To do this, you'd want to have experienced players who have at least a little bit of Battlefield understanding, right? Well, in DICE's case, they literally raffled the tickets to any random person who applied. It was clear from this point that they didn't want any feedback and it was a server test alone. Finally, when the beta came out though, we actually all got to test out the game and see what it was all about. Most agreed that the gunplay and movement were the top two saving graces about the game, with everything else needing work. What did they do come release though? They literally nuked gunplay into the ground, and you could only use the PP29 and SVK. Supposedly the weapon stat values were closer to random than actual tested stuff, and it showed. A DICE dev even said that they felt like their co-workers were griefing. A dev has literally came to the same conclusion as us. Things were so stupid that, jokingly or not, they said that the game was being thrown. Honestly, if they were sabotaging the gunplay, I believe they did an excellent job. If the game released with the beta gunplay and hit reg, I'm 100% sure that more people would have stuck with the game. Being limited to 1 or 2 guns was not fun at all, and DICE later reverted to something that was similar to the beta. Aside from that leak stuff though, some current and former DICE employees have went public with some very interesting things. I remember Alan Kurtz saying that they sometimes wrote fake things in the patch notes or changed things without even including them. Honestly, especially after what we've went through right now, this is just absolutely ridiculous to hear. Like literally all we want right now is transparency, and there has been tweets from Alan Kurtz saying that they used to change things without, you know, letting the players know. It's really shady stuff, you know, it's not too harmful, but it's something that you don't want to hear coming from, you know, an ex-DICE developer in Alan Kurtz. Then there's also this recent gem where a DICE producer said that putting a roadmap together sounds super boring. That's part of a thread where she basically explains that her job of producer is split between 2 people. If the production of 2042 is any indicator, this doesn't work, and it reminds me of that office portion where both Michael and Jim are both co-managers. Somehow this actually happened in the real world though, and it happened with DICE. If we're being 100% real here though, While sabotage may have happened, and honestly it's kind of plausible due to the extreme Olympic gold medal of incompetence level of throwing we saw, the real issues within DICE are probably to do with nepotism and the fact that some of the employees are literally dating or married. Nepotism has been obvious to me even as a creator. I watched small channels that sucked up to DICE get chosen and favoured, while people like myself were ignored for the longest time. I'm 100% sure I would have received more favourable treatment had I kept my mouth shut all these years and just praised DICE instead. This is something that's also been confirmed to me by other creators, and look, it's pretty obvious. You'll often see these people on social media, praising Battlefield 2042 and seemingly looking past every single issue the game has. They'll say that anyone that hates on the game is obviously a hater, and that DICE doesn't deserve any of that. Then you go to their profile and it says that they're an EA game changer or something like that in their bio, and then comes the step where I try to see if it's based off merit or if it's based off, nepotism or something like that. And often they'll have a very, very dead social media following. They don't really pull in many views, and that's fine. But in this kind of case, an EA game changer or an EA content creator, that should be based off merit. It should be based off, how many views can you get onto the product. Because that's what marketing is all about at the end of the day. It shouldn't be, how hard can you suck up to a game, and will you say the right things. But unfortunately, in a lot of cases, that is exactly how it is. If this level of nepotism exists within the creator space, I have no doubt that it's also existing within the development space as well. Then the fact that people in DICE are literally in romantic relationships cannot help either. I mean, imagine getting dumped by your girlfriend because you thought she did a shitty job with the Battlefield UI. On the opposite end of that, it's also likely that you'd be a yes man or woman for your partner, when in fact, the best things often do come from a little bit of criticism. There's definitely more stuff out there, but as I said at the start, it'll get really interesting when some of these NDAs expire, and people speak up on the whole process that made 2042. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. Like and comment for the algorithm if you enjoyed, and dislike if you didn't. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.